Hey folks, welcome to Module 2. So copyright is the major focus today. In terms of history, I thought it was really interesting. I hadn't realized this. The world's first copyright law was actually enacted in 1710 in England, the Statute of Anne. That's my fun fact for the day. So when we talk about copyright, basically what we're talking about is a way that we can think of protection provided by the laws of the United States for original works of authorship. And so some of the things that includes is, literary, dramatic, musical, architectural, cartographic, choreographic, uh, pantomimic, pictorial, graphic, sculptural, and audiovisual creations. These copyright laws give creators certain kinds of control over their creative work. If people want to use copyrighted work, they often have to ask permission from the creator, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Creative Commons is a group that actually works with copyright law, so it allows creators to grant permissions to everyone in the world to use their work in certain ways. Some of the things, copyright grants a set of exclusive rights to copyright owners. So like no one else can copy, distribute, publicly perform, adapt, or do almost anything else than simply view or read a work without permission. Copyright's able to grant rights to literary and artistic works that are original. So it's available from everything from paintings to blog posts. All works must meet a certain standard of originality to warrant copyright. It does not, in fact, protect ideas themselves, only the expression of those ideas, which is, I think, a really interesting thing to think about. I wonder about kind of the difference between an idea and that expression. I imagine it's quite tricky at times, but even though copyright law does give creators control over their expression of idea, it does not allow copywriters to hold the idea itself. And then as a general rule, it's an automatic thing that happens the moment the work is created. Copyright protection actually can last quite a long time. And copyright protection is balanced against other public interests. As mentioned in part one that I was just talking about, these original works of authorship, literary, dramatic, musical, architectural, cartographic, choreographic, pantomimic, pictorial, graphical, sculptural, or audiovisual creations are what's included. You can't do things like methods, ideas, systems, things like that. One of the things that you wanted us to talk about was the relationship between copyright and other methods of protecting intellectual property. And so I guess kind of some of the other ones that showed up were the idea of, in different countries, they might have neighboring rights. And so these neighboring rights relate to copyrighted works and grant additional exclusive rights beyond the basic rights described above. So, some of these rights are governed by treaties, different countries, but ultimately these rights are designed to give like copyright-like rights. And then there are also similar rights, such as economic rights, where creators have copyright to get exclusive rights to control certain uses of their work. Moral rights, most countries have some form of, moral right, where moral rights draw on the author's rights, traditions, and that are protected. Moral rights kind of include the right to be recognized as the author of the work and the right to protect the work's integrity. So how does one actually generally receive copyright protection? To register your copyright, you need to go to the ECO online system, create an account, and fill out the form. There is a basic fee of $35, it seems, if you file online. The process times are generally faster if you apply online, from what I've gathered. One of the things I thought about, can you just mail it to yourself? I remember being a musician in my younger years, and I think our very first EP, we did exactly that. We mailed it to ourselves, and we thought that we were incredibly clever. Public domain. In the public domain, the work is considered to be part of our cultural heritage and not subject to any copyright limitations. So, like anyone can go and exploit anyone Sorry. This means that anyone can exploit a work for both commercial and non-commercial gain. Copyright holders do have the ability to place works in the public domain. The Creative Commons group that we're working with here offers a license to do just that. What are some exceptions and limitations to copyright? Though from what I've learned so far, copyright law provides the creator with several critical and powerful rights over their work. Those rights are not unlimited. The laws are always recognized the need to balance the rights of the copyright holder with the good of the public. And the provisions in the laws have aimed to do exactly just like that. Copyrights expire. They're not perpetual. The length of a copyright work created during, basically for work of authorship, the term is 95 years from date of publication or 120 years from the date of creation, whichever's shorter. When it does expire, it does fall into the public domain. Fair use. Fair use is probably the best known limitation. There's no set rule that defines what is and is not fair use, which is, problematic and interesting. Fair use is defined by a framework that's applied on a case-by-case basis. Whether or not something is fair can only be effectively determined by a higher court. Parody came up, which is basically a subset of the fair use limitations that protects work that copyrighted work. Yeah, and I think that about covers this first part.